All right, so before we begin, I'd like to put a little disclaimer in here. I'm not a professional. Your brake system is the most important safety feature on your entire vehicle. It protects yourself, your family, and other drivers. So it is probably the best idea to go to a professional and have this done. Do not do this if you don't know what you're doing. And yeah, seek professional assistance or take it to a shop to have done. This is just how I do it, and it's for entertainment purposes only. Alright, so today we're going to change the brakes on a 2006 Toyota Matrix. As you can see, there's a bunch of this black dust coming out on the rim. That's the dust from the brake calipers themselves. So let's break it open and see what we got. Alright, your lug wrench should be in the back, right there. Use the screwdriver end of the lug wrench to peel away the hubcap. Like so, until it comes off. Alright, now loosen the lug nuts. Alright, now you're going to want to jack up the vehicle. These indentations right here and right here indicate where the jack is supposed to go. However, I'm going to actually jack it up a little bit further to the left and put the jack stand right here, because I'm going to leave this on the jack stand and do the same thing on the other side. Alright, I'm taking a photo of this because this is the other side of the vehicle. Remember, I said that I was putting the jack right here so I could put my jack stand right there. And I put it right underneath that bolt, which was a poor idea. You can see that it bent the front clip a little bit. And also, put your jack stands on something solid like a large piece of wood. Otherwise, you'll wind up into the problem I got right here. Okay, so I got the vehicle on jack stands now, and I've removed the tire. There are two bolts behind the caliper. We're going to want to loosen those and then remove the caliper. And that is a 14 millimeter. Alright, I have removed the two 14 millimeter bolts, and the caliper should just peel away like this. Be gentle, this is a rubber hose, this is your brake line, but you can hang it from the brake line. But I like to try to prop it somewhere so that it doesn't have any extra pressure on that. That way you don't spring a leak. And then you're simply going to want to pull away your brake shoes. And they both remove the same way. Just slide them out like so. Alright, so now I want to remove the rotor, because I need to go have that faced. And there are two 17 millimeter bolts right back here that holds this bracket on. I need to remove that in order to get at this. I just tested them. They're on there pretty tight. I'm going to go get my breaker bar and knock them loose. Okay, so I removed that bracket, and the rotor just pulls straight off. Alright, it just slides right out. It shouldn't be hard at all. But let's talk about safety for a second. You want to do some secondary cribbing underneath the vehicle, especially if you're going to leave the vehicle to go get your rotors faced or buy new brakes, etc. You never know what's going to come along. It could be your dog, such as that dog, or a cat, or the neighbor kid decided to come kick your car and the car falls on his foot. So make sure you take some safety steps. It's simple. Shove the tires underneath. Try to look for a spot where it's going to catch hold. I made sure that the one on the passenger side is underneath the oil pan. So alright, we're going to go see if I can get these rotors faced. I think they're gouged a little too deep to get them faced, but we'll see. That could save me some money, and I'll show you how to reassemble on the flip side. Okay, so my old rotors could not be turned, so I had to purchase new rotors. They are sealed in Cosmoline, which is a grease. So I'm going to want to take a paper towel and brake cleaner and just clean the heck out of these. Any Cosmoline can ruin your brake pads, so got to get those nice and cleaned, and we'll take it from there. Alright, so I thoroughly cleaned these rotors with brake cleaner to make sure all the grease got off. You can't have any of the grease that comes on there. It's called Cosmoline. It can ruin your brake pads. So now I'm taking and spraying down this bracket, and then these little metal, I don't know what you'd call them, I'll call them brake pad sliders, are dirty as well. So I'm going to take this paper towel here and some brake cleaner and just clean the heck out of these. And you can see here on this one where those metal pieces, the brake pad sliders, go. Okay, so we're going to clean these up, and then I'll show you how to put the brake pads in. Okay, so before we put the brake pads back on, we have to replace this bracket, which is called the caliper torque plate. The two bolts that hold this thing on go at 79 foot-pounds. This is very important. Obviously, you don't want the caliper coming off while driving down the road. So we have a trusty torque wrench here. It's my Mac torque wrench. I'm using an adapter. You're not supposed to, but this is the best I got. It's a 1/2 inch drive, and I only have a 3/4 inch socket. To adjust a torque wrench, if you never have before, then I don't know if you can really focus in on that. It needs to be 70 pounds, so, or 79 pounds rather. So, well, you twist the handle anyway, and you'll see the 70 mark, and then you can twist this collar, or keep on twisting to this collar says 9. That's right here on that line, and that should be 79 pounds. Okay, so I have my torque wrench adjusted. Now, what's going to happen is when I reach 79 foot-pounds, it's going to kind of give way. It's going to make like a clicking noise, and you're going to feel just this slightest give in it, and that's the indicator that you've reached your torque pounds. If you've never done it before, I think you'll tell what I'm talking about once it gets there, but it kind of goes click and has a little give to it suddenly. So, all right, we're going to torque these down. All right, so I got those two bolts torqued down to 79 foot-pounds, and now we want to install the clips. And they just snap over at these little pieces right there on top and on bottom. Okay, so now you can see the clips are in place, bottom and top. Now, this little spot right here, that's where your brake pad's gonna slide back and forth, so we want to put some lubricant on it. We got this packet of brake lubricant to do that. Note this is it says Sil Glide, and that's because it's silicone-based lubricant. So if you have a tub of that laying around, you could just use that. I got 3 vehicles, and I change enough brakes that I should just buy the big tub because it'll probably last me 10 or more years, and probably cost $6 for. So, all right, I'm gonna put some lube on here and get going. Okay, so we got the lube on there. Now we're just gonna put the brake pads in. Like this, and I'm gonna do the same on the back side. Okay, the brake pads are in place. Next we've got to put the caliper in, but you'll see your problem will turn out that your piston is extended too far. So, what we're gonna do is we pop the cap off the master cylinder, and then we take a C-clamp. This is a 6-inch C-clamp and a piece of wood. I don't know if this wood's sturdy enough, but I'm going to give her a shot. You put the wood across here to give it uniform pressure, and then you use the C-clamp and collapse this piston down. Yep, alright, so we're going to get after it. Okay, so there's the brake caliper collapsed down. Now we're going to place it over the brake pads. Okay, so the caliper's in place. Now I put these 2 bolts in, and now I have to torque them down to 25 foot-pounds. Okay, so the caliper is now torqued down, and just to note, one thing I did forget to do, I'm going to take this caliper off and actually do it, is normally in the back side, this metal plate that's on the brake pad, you put some little lithium grease on that where it makes contact with the caliper. I guess that's supposed to prevent noise in the future, noisy brakes. The other thing is that, and I can't remember what they call these kind of bolts, but this right here is your bleeder valve, okay? And there's 2 different ways to bleed brakes, and we'll get into that, but that's what you loosen and tighten to bleed the brakes. And since we have a good view of it right now, we'll take that photo. Alright, so I put the tire back on. Normally, while the vehicle is still raised, you put the lug nuts on and snug them down. That way the tire's nicely seated. Lower the jack, and then finish tightening the lug nuts. One thing to note, I do not have the torque specs for the lug nuts. I looked all the way through my book. I couldn't find them, but I guess that's the reason you take it to a professional. So I just tightened the heck out of them as much as I could. Alright. Okay, we're getting ready to bleed the brakes. The way I've always been taught is that you cap off the master cylinder, make sure it's sealed. Remember, we took the cap off when we collapsed the caliper, but we're going to put the lid back on, and then you start with the tire that's furthest away from the master cylinder. So in this case, we just did the front brakes. I'm going to be bleeding, so I'm going to do the passenger side and the front side. You know, maybe in a perfect world, or, you know, I don't know. It's probably a good idea to bleed all 4 at this point, but I'm just going to bleed these front 2. So we're going to start with passenger side. The way I do it, it takes 2 people. There's going to be a person sitting in the driver's seat. I'm going to say press and hold. You're going to loosen the bolt. As they press down, it's going to spit brake fluid out. When they're holding, you tighten it, and then you say release. They release the pedal, and you repeat the process until there's no air bubbles coming out. And if you refer back to when I was showing you the bolt that we're going to loosen and tighten to bleed the brakes, that was after I put the caliper back on, then that's what I'm going to be loosening and tightening. There's really no good way, this car is so low to the ground, to get the camera back there and try to show you what I'm doing. You know, there's probably another good video where there's a vehicle up on a lift and they're doing it. If you don't have a second person for this, you can get a vacuum pump. You know, I got a little one from Harbor Freight for 20 bucks, and they sell American made ones for like $21. Harbor Freight's just closer for me. And it is made to bleed brakes, and it's got a little capture reservoir, so it's super cool. You bleed the brake, it pushes the fluid into the capture reservoir. When you're done, you can top your master cylinder back off with that fluid. I haven't used it yet though, and I'm going to use the 2-person method today. So I hope that helps. Good luck on your project. Remember, if you have any questions, talk to a professional. I'm not a professional. I'm just showing you the way I do it. So yeah, have a good day.